Good morning. My name is Guadalupe Gomez. I'm with the Maryland Insurance Administration. Welcome to our event today, Elder Abuse Awareness, Fraud and Scams. Today, June 15, is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Every year, an estimated 5 million older Americans are victims of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. And it's estimated that only 7% of those cases get reported, less than 1 in 10. World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is a call to action for all of us to raise awareness about abuse, neglect, and exploitation of older adults. Thank you for joining us today. A few housekeeping rules. Attendees, please keep your cameras off and mics need to remain on mute. If you have any questions throughout the event, please write your questions in the chat box. All questions will be asked to the presenters at the end during our Q&A session. Please note that this event today is being recorded. The recording for the event today, as well as all the slides, will be available on the Maryland Insurance Administration website by early next week. With that being said, please welcome our first speaker, Rebecca Bradley from the Maryland Department of Aging.
Good morning, everyone. The Senior Medicare Patrol is a program that is available for Medicare beneficiaries to help them prevent Medicare fraud, scams, and identity theft related to health insurance. And so I want to talk a little bit about what Medicare fraud errors and abuse, how they impact us. So for everyone, that means that when this occurs, that there is an increase in taxpayer dollars, particularly for benefits such as Medicare, Medicaid. Also, it puts the Medicare Trust Fund at risk because people are charging more money to the fund than is necessary. After that, it really impacts an individual where sometimes people are trying to access their benefits, but they're not able to access because it's been inappropriately charged for services. Additionally, it could be that overall, when there are continuous situations where there's been fraudulent activity, we'll see an increase in premiums for Medicare beneficiaries. So with fraud, it's a particular concept where the provider is intentionally billing Medicare for services that were not received or billing at a higher rate than is actually justified based on the service that was provided. I'm not able to forward the slides. Okay. Abuse is when a provider actually charges a provider for services and products that are not necessarily medically necessary. And so this could be when, let's say your provider, your doctor ordered some type of medical supply, and they come in boxes of 50. And let's say you use them twice a week, and a box of 50 could last you 3 months. But the provider could be providing these supplies monthly. And then sometimes you'll see that you have, they're just charging you for those, well, charging Medicare, and it may or may not be a co-payment for you, the individual, but they're charging for those and they keep delivering them, even though they're delivering more than you actually need. Additionally, it could be that it is substandard, it doesn't meet the professional standards for the products that are being provided. And here are some examples of fraud and abuse, and we talked a little bit about it: billing for excessive medical supplies, billing for services, supplies, or equipment that was not provided. And this is something that happens a lot in a lot of housing communities, and sometimes community groups where or people go to fairs when providers offer to provide some free services. In order to receive these free services, individuals are asked to provide their Medicare number. Another thing is, and this could be an error, but definitely it could be abuse if they're not doing it properly. When a provider bills with improper coding. And so sometimes it's intentional where they want to try to get more money reimbursed than what is actually set for that particular services. Sometimes they're unneeded or excessive x-rays or lab tests. And also people don't think about it. It's a beneficiary might allow a different person to use their Medicare number to obtain any medical care, supplies, or equipment. Errors could be unintentional. So sometimes a provider may inaccurately bill for a particular service, and it's an error, it's a mistake, or they may double bill for particular services. So we ask that people report those anyway, so that, because it's a complicated process in Medicare billing. So we ask that you report that. Sometimes you can just contact the provider if you notice that you've been charged twice for a particular service, so that they can adjust it. But they want to know, because people, the providers need to be educated so that they can bill correctly and not have continuous errors. And so as far as the perpetrators of this abuse and fraud, this would be something that it's a federal crime. And so that's something that CMS wants us to report these things related to Medicare when we see them, so that they can definitely see if there's a pattern, if there's a particular provider who continuously does the same thing, or was it a one-time mistake that they've done. When providers are really trying to fraud the federal government on medical services, they may be sentenced to prison. They may have to repay for the funds. They may have to stop providing services as a Medicare provider if they're already an approved provider. And so for beneficiaries, I mentioned this before, that when your Medicare number is used fraudulently, and particularly when you report it or if there's some errors, it could impact the beneficiary by not being able to get services or having some delays in getting services approved. And so a couple of years ago, there was a change in the Medicare number from the Social Security number, which was done in order to protect Medicare beneficiaries, because sometimes the scammers were actually trying to get the Social Security number, and they were doing all types of banking and credit related issues, financial fraud, not just Medicare fraud. So definitely, in addition to your Medicare ID number, you also want to protect your Social Security number from individuals as well. So prescription drug fraud is when individuals are prescribed medications that are not medically necessary. There is an issue with people who are trying to get multiple fraudulent prescriptions, or they're stealing the prescription pad so that they can get medications that are not prescribed for them. And also, the scammers are also using that to bill for prescriptions for beneficiary that the beneficiary never gets. So they're at a pharmacy that you don't necessarily go to, and they don't come to you. They are going to someone else and being sold illegally. And then there's the genetic testing. So that's been, I guess, a big thing throughout the country, where providers are offering genetic testing, and that's not always something that is a covered benefit. Hospice fraud is something separate. It's when people are receiving hospice services, but they also have some medications are included with their services to keep them comfortable, that individual, and sometimes they're billed for services or medications that are not necessarily needed or received. So here's some tips. So one is that you want to treat your Medicare like you do your credit card. That is a valued number, and you want to make sure that you protect it, and you only share it when it's necessary for you to access services or care related to Medicare. The other is to watch out for identity theft, knowing that sometimes people may bring on that they're trying to offer you services, but they may be trying to get other information from you. Like they want to know where you live, and they want to know your date of birth. And I'm not saying that you don't have to share that information if you're looking for a particular service, but if it's not something that you initiated, you definitely want to be leery about sharing that information. And this is something that we hear because there are a lot of people who are getting calls from scammers. So Medicare will not call you. They will not come to your house to offer you any particular services. So if someone is calling you by telephone or knocking on your door, they are not representing Medicare, even if they tell you that they are. So definitely, there may be some follow-up if you have initiated contact with Medicare, but there will not be any outreach to you that was not already initiated by you. So we talked about this already. Please do not give out your Medicare number, except to your doctor or a Medicare provider if you're needing a service or supply, or if you're looking for assistance. So definitely if you're looking for assistance as far as making changes to your healthcare plan, it would be necessary to provide your Medicare number. We encourage people not to carry their Medicare card with them unless they need it. So if you're going to Medicare, a medical appointment, then that would be an appropriate time to take your Medicare card with you. But if you find that you're going to a concert, you don't necessarily need it with you. And that might not necessarily be important for you to bring it with you at that time. So here are some other things that you can do to protect yourself, particularly with identity theft, that you want to see about putting yourself on a do not call list. And unfortunately, sometimes you need to renew that. Definitely shred private information. So some people invest in their own personal shredders, where they can shred private information, statements, and things with confidential information before they discard it. And many communities have different shredding events where you can take your personal papers and have them shredded at those events. Hang up on marketing calls. Please don't engage them. Sometimes scammers are very charming, and they are very convincing that they are offering you something that you need, that you might not need, and it's a way to reel you in. And the other is avoid clicking on links and emails, and sometimes text messages as well, because that's a way for them to connect to you. This is a copy of the Medicare summary notice. And so particularly with Medicare, it's really important for individuals to take a minute to review this. And typically it comes, and it varies depending on what type of insurance you have. Some people get it every time they have a charge added. Other people will get it monthly, and some people will get it quarterly, depending on the plan. But you want to check it, and this is pretty small, but typically tells you about the provider, the sub-provider that you know that you didn't go to, or if there's a date of a service that you didn't receive at a particular provider that you may have gone to. And then you want to look at the services that are provided as well. And this is just a copy of the updated Medicare card. I mentioned earlier that previously it was your social security number. And now there is a randomly assigned number that you're assigned for your Medicare. And it makes it a little bit easier if you find that your number has been shared with someone unintentionally and that they're using it. You can contact CMS, and what they will do is stop this particular number that's been compromised, and it will issue you a new number. And I talked about detecting, and that's again looking at your Medicare summary notices, and it talked about all of those things that we have here about services that you didn't receive, a provider that you didn't go to. Sometimes providers are a part of a practice, so definitely you might want to call the practice to make sure that wasn't the reason that it's a provider that you don't know. Double billing, and so sometimes people will see the same charge on the same day or on 2 days in a row. And it may be a mistake. Then some additional services that are charged that was not ordered by your doctor, that your doctor did not tell you that they were going to be recommending. You can maintain your personal care journal.
Gigi, you're muted.
Thank you, Rebecca. Please let's welcome our next speaker, Dave Finneran from Maryland Department of Labor Home Improvement Commission.
Thank you, Gigi. I'm Dave Finneran. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Home Improvement Commission, as she said, and I'd like to take a minute before I get into my slides just to introduce what we do. The MHIC, the Maryland Home Improvement Commission, was established in 1962 to protect the public against predatory contractors, home improvement contractors. We're tasked with administering those laws. So we have a staff of 21, 9 of which are investigators, and we do a couple functions here. We license contractors. We make sure we vet them, and then we license them. We also license salespeople that will come to your house and represent the contractor. We also process complaints. So we're a complaint-driven agency. If someone has a problem with a contractor, they'll submit a complaint form with supporting documents, and we'll take that complaint through investigation and try to resolve that complaint. Totally, there's 33,000 contractors licensed right now and about 3,000 salespeople. And we receive over 1,500 complaints a year. So that's the part I want to address during the Elder Abuse Awareness Week, the complaint side of this. We have found that the elderly are susceptible to contractors and some of the theft that goes on, the incomplete work, the unsatisfactory home improvement work. The elderly seem to be a pretty vulnerable group, and we address it as such. We take special care with the elderly complaints and try to address those as we get them. If I could have a raise of hands, I know we're in a virtual environment. I could say if we were in the elderly, I've done this in the past. About a third of the folks will raise their hands and say, have they had a problem with a home improvement contractor in the past? So I'm going to move forward with the slides here. Let me see if I can work the slide machine. I'm going the wrong direction. Tips. I'm going to start off with tips for choosing a contractor. So we're going to ask folks to only hire licensed contractors. Anyone performing home improvement work with a licensed contractor is going to be protected by home improvement law. So you're going to want to verify the information that the contractor gives you. That's going to be one of your first steps. And then you could call us or email us, and anyone on our staff could give you the information about the contractor, whether the contractor is still active, if there's a complaint history. We have a lot of information on file that we could share with you. Number two, let's ask to see the contractor's license and a photo ID. Just make sure you're working with the person that you thought you were working with. I'm skipping past these slides. My screen's a little touch. My rollerball is a little touchy. Do you mind controlling my screen for me? I'll take the next slide. Thank you. Get your contract in writing. Verbal contracts are more common than you think. We've recently had a case where a homeowner, an elderly homeowner, was brought up here by her daughter, and we had a discussion about the contractor, and the contractor actually drove the elderly client to a cash machine and actually had them take out cash, and it was all a verbal agreement, and it didn't end well, and resulted in a pretty ugly complaint. So let's get everything in writing. We're going to want you to ask you to have that contract reviewed. Another set of eyes. Let's ask friends, relatives. Certainly, if you have the ability to use legal representation, let's get a attorney to take a good look at that contract before you sign it. Number four, let's make sure all the project materials are spelled out in the contract. Exactly, you want everything, all your expectations put into that contract. So let's get that all in writing best you can. Let's ask for 3 bids. The first contractor, that may be the one you ultimately go with, but let's ask for a couple more contractor bids and see if the contractor's in line. Make sure they're skilled enough in that particular area of home improvement to do that job. So you want to make sure you get a contractor that's a good fit for you. Be cautious about the door-to-door offers. If these unsolicited offers are, you could certainly use that if as one of your estimates, but let's verify that you need that service, that service is being offered to you at a fair price, and other estimates will help you in that task. Again, ask friends and family for recommendations. Next slide, please. Let's never pay cash. We just discussed that. We want to record that payment. You want to have if you have to submit a complaint, we always ask for proof of payment. That's going to be an important feature. Even the smallest jobs get proof that the person you're dealing with is licensed. A small job could lead to a big job, and a big job could go bad in a hurry. So even the smallest jobs ask for a licensed contractor. And number 10 is important. Ask for no more. A contractor can accept no more than 1/3 of the cost of the contract as a deposit. So upfront payment, 1/3 maximum. It's a negotiated item. So you could even ask for negotiate less than 1/3. But 1/3 is the maximum by law to accept that a contractor can accept at time of contract. But additionally, you have a 5-day right of rescission. So you sign a contract, you really haven't done your due diligence, and you need to investigate the contractor and the contract price a little more. You have 5 days to cancel that contract, and 7 days if you're 65 or older. So you do have a right of rescission period. So let's take advantage of that as well. Next slide, please. All right, tips for choosing a home improvement contractor. This is going to be a good general guide to everything we do at home improvement. Let's go ahead with the next slide. This is going to be a quick guide for us. So decide what home improvements you want to make. Do a little investigation, do a little research. Go on the internet and find out what you can do, what you can comfortably afford. Seek licensed contractors, MHIC licensed contractors. If a contractor if the job project includes electricians, plumbers, or HVAC, that licensed home improvement contractor is also required to hire a licensed electrician, licensed plumber, or licensed HVAC contractor. We have a guarantee fund that is available to, if a contractor takes advantage of a homeowner and does unsatisfactory work or abandons the job, we have this fund that's eligible, if you're eligible, to pay you back up to $20,000 in for an actual loss due to a home improvement contractor's contract. So It's a huge benefit to using a licensed contractor. Obtain more than one estimate. We had that discussion. I'm going to move on to the next slide, please. Ask prospective contractors to show you the license. We talked about that. Check the licensing status. Please contact us. We're going to give you an update. Next slide, please. We do have their complaint record on file. Request references. Choose the contractor who's right from you. We've had these discussions. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Always get your contract in writing. Next slide, please. And this is a much better general flyer that we put out, so it does have some overlap with the other stuff. Request to see the building permit. So if a building permit's required on your project, the local jurisdiction is going to let you. Going to be the building code officials are going to be the people that issue that permit. The contractor is responsible to make sure that permit's on the job. So if there's a permit necessary, make sure that contractor provides that. All right, next slide. Okay, here's the guarantee fund we were talking about. It's only going to benefit a homeowner if the contractor holds an MHIC licensed. If it's an unlicensed contractor, we don't have access. The homeowner won't have access to the guarantee fund and can't receive a monetary award. In the case of an unlicensed contractor, we're going to have to. We take that complaint, we investigate the contractor, try to identify the contractor. Positive identification is important. And if we have enough evidence, we will file a criminal lawsuit against that contractor. So we will take that contractor to criminal court and let the judge decide how that should be, that will be disposed. So let's use a licensed contractor, much easier process. We know who the folks are that are licensed and we have all their records. So, and you may get that money back if we can't find a proper way to mediate this and get that money back to the homeowner. We have that fund that upon award would actually pay the homeowner back. Next slide, please. Okay, so there's some specific requirements in a home improvement contract. Every contract should have these specific items in it. Again, we're still going to ask you to take it to an attorney if possible and have the attorney review that contract. So next slide, please. So some of the things that contract should must have in it is the contractor's contact information and license numbers. His or her MHIC license number is required to be on that contract. The salesperson, if the contractor can sell a contract, but often a contractor will hire licensed salespeople, and that salesperson would negotiate the contract, and their name or license number is required on the contract if a salesperson is used. And then dates. We need the approximate start date and the approximate finish date of the project. With COVID, that sometimes is a pretty wide window. A contractor can't exactly tell when materials coming in, but we want to put the best available dates on that contract as well. Next slide, please. All right, description of the home improvement. So somewhere in that contract, we need a description of what you expect out of that project. You want to know, to be clear about what materials are going to be used and what your end result should be when the contract's finished. We also, there's some elements of the contract that need to be added as well. If there's a clause about mediation, there's certainly the clause about guarantee fund. You want to make homeowners aware of the guarantee fund and the option for the homeowner to purchase a performance bond. That's a negotiated item as well. Next slide, please. All right, deposits and payments. We talked about that, but it's very important. No more than 1/3 of the contract price at the time of contract. Next slide, please. So here's the Door-to-Door Sales Act. This is administered by the Consumer Protection division over at the state's attorney's office. This is very specific language that needs to be put into a contract. It's going to give the homeowner the right to cancel a contract if it's canceled prior to the 5th business day after the date of the contract, and 7 if the homeowner is 65 years or older. Very important document to have on that contract. And then legal advice. We don't provide legal advice. We can give you all the elements of the record, the MHIC records that we have on contractors, but we can't steer you with legal advice. You're going to have to talk to an attorney for that. Is that the last slide for me? I believe so. Yes. And in short, I just want to encourage everybody to contact our commission, and we'll address any issues you may have. We have a very informative staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. A quick reminder, everyone, if you have any questions throughout the event, please write your questions in the chat box. All questions will be asked to the presenters at the end during our Q&A session. Please let's welcome our next speaker, Janine Robinson Hurley from the Maryland Attorney General's Office.
Okay, thank you. So let's see, I want to actually share my slides. You know what? Why don't you guys control the slides for me? Next slide, please, since they're already up. Next. Okay, so before I jump in talking about scams, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Consumer Protection Division, because we are a resource for you. So there are 2 units that I want to emphasize. We have our mediation unit that handles disputes that you may have with a business. And the mediation unit staffs our consumer hotline, which is 410-528-1840. And this is a number that you can call to find out about a complaint history that we might have on a business. But you can also call this consumer hotline to report scam calls to us. You can also call us if you're not sure if a phone call you received is a scam call. We will tell you what we know. If we haven't heard about the call, we will do some research and get back to you, so it is a resource for you. You may also want to reach out to our Health Education and Advocacy Unit, because they offer mediation if you have a billing dispute with a healthcare provider, or if you have a coverage or billing dispute with your health insurance company. You might also want to call our Health Education and Advocacy Unit to report health-related scams. So recently we were getting some calls about some Medicare scams that I will tell you about in a few minutes. So these are resources for you. And we also have an identity theft unit that can give you advice if your personal information has been compromised due to a data breach or to a scam. A lot of people aren't sure as to what are next steps. Who do I need to contact? Our identity theft unit can give you that advice. Next slide. Okay, so this is the thing that I always like to remind people, that anybody can be a victim of a scam. It is not about how smart you are. I meet highly intelligent people and they will tell me, I don't want anybody to know, but I actually fell victim to a scam. And this is the secret to why anybody can be a victim of a scam. Scammers are playing on your emotions. And when you are in a highly emotional state, you are not thinking clearly and you would do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. So they love to make you think that you are about to be arrested or sued, or that someone you love is in trouble and they need your help. So you're in a state of panic, you're in a state of fear, and you won't resist when they tell you to send them money. Another way that they're playing on your emotions is when they also try to convince you that you've won millions of dollars, or you've won some kind of really nice free prize, such as a brand new car or an all expense paid vacation, and you're in a state of overjoy. And you won't resist when they tell you, okay, if you want your millions, you need to prepay taxes, or if you want to win your all expense paid vacation, you need to pay a processing fee. So those are ways that they play on your emotions, which is why any of us can be scammed. So how can you protect yourself? Well, a great way is to be able to tell signs of a scam. So even though scammers change up scams, because they know that there's a lot of information out there to help you identify a scam, but if you can tell the warning signs, and the number one warning sign is when scammers tell you to wire money as a form of payment. And they love money wires because they're difficult to trace. Scammers can be anywhere in the world and still receive money via a money wire. They can remain fairly anonymous. It's a very quick way of getting cash. And it is really like giving someone cash, and they can be halfway around the world. And once you've been scammed, it is very difficult to reverse a money wire. So that's why they love money wires. Another popular form of payment is when scammers tell you to use a prepaid debit card. And the green dot card is one of their favorites. And these are found in the gift card section of stores. And often they will tell you, call me when you're in the store. So as soon as that cashier activates that prepaid debit card, they want you to give them the reference number while you're in the store. And by the time you get home, they've already drained the funds from the card. And just like money wires, prepaid debit cards are very difficult to trace. They're very difficult to reverse. Another popular form of payment are gift cards. Amazon.com gift cards, iTunes gift cards, Google Play, and eBay.com gift cards are very popular with scammers. So a red flag should go off if a scammer is telling you that you owe back taxes and they are demanding that you pay them using an Amazon.com gift card. Remember, gift cards are meant to be given as gifts, and you can only use that gift card with the website that it is associated with. You can't use them to pay off debts or to pay bills, in other words. Another sign of a scam is when you are asked to provide personal information via telephone, email, or text message, and you did not initiate the contact. Most legitimate organizations will not ask for sensitive email over the telephone, by email, or by text message. So this is a hallmark that you're dealing with a scammer. If you get a text message and the party is convincing you that it's from your bank, and they're telling you you need to enter your online banking username and password, that is a sign you're dealing with a scam. Your bank would not text you asking you for that information. So be on guard for these unsolicited requests for information, even if the scammer is claiming to be from someone that's trustworthy. Next slide. Okay, so I want to tell you about a couple of scams to be on the lookout for. So we know that the state of Maryland is trying to get as many people vaccinated against the COVID-19 virus. So we have the Vax Cash lottery system, where if you have been vaccinated, your name has been entered for a drawing, and there is a daily drawing of $40,000. And scammers are exploiting the Vax Cash program already. So what they're doing is they're contacting people, and they are telling them that they have won $100,000, and they're saying that it is part of the COVID-19 benefit Powerball. That is not true. The Vax Cash program is not part of the Maryland Lottery. It is part of the Maryland Health Department's COVID-19 vaccination efforts. And what scammers are trying to do is use this program to get you to give them your social security number and to possibly get your financial information as well. So if you are actually drawn and you actually get one of the daily $40,000 prizes, you are going to get a call from the Maryland Department of Health. They're not going to ask you for any sensitive personal information over the telephone. So that's very important. Now, the first speaker talked about some important Medicare scams, but I want to tell you about two Medicare scams that were reported to our office recently. So one consumer told us that a recorded call came in and it said it was from Susan, your local Medicare patient advocate. And Susan claimed that she had been trying to reach this consumer, and this consumer needed to talk to her immediately or her Medicare benefits were going to be terminated. So if you get this call, please do not stay on the line, because they're going to tell you to press a button to talk to someone, and then they're going to try to get your Medicare ID number. And another similar scam is the person does not say they're an advocate, but they're simply warning you that your Medicare benefits are going to be terminated. And again, they're asking you to press 1 to talk to someone. So please hang up on those calls. I want to remind you about the grandparent scam, because due to COVID, your grandchild may actually call you and ask you to give them some money to help them pay their rent. But you definitely want to be cautious of this scam. If you get a call supposedly from your grandchild, please call your grandchild. Don't send them money. Don't send this person money. If you can't get in touch with your grandchild, please call your other family members before you give money. And also, I want you to be aware of the utility scam. This one is going on year round. But the scammers are pretending to be from your utility company, and they are claiming that you didn't pay your past bill, and they are threatening to turn off your power unless you make an immediate payment over the phone. Please do not make a payment. The utility companies have said repeatedly they do not call threatening people and demanding immediate payment by telephone. Next slide. So how can you protect yourself? Don't respond to calls or text messages from unfamiliar phone numbers. Don't click on links in emails and text messages. And don't share your personal information with unknown sources. And that includes your Medicare number and other health insurance information, because that's valuable information that scammers can use to commit identity theft as well as fraud. Next slide. Now, if you are unfortunately a victim of a scam, you want to contact the local police and file a police report, particularly if you shared your social security number and you paid any money. And you also want to contact the Federal Trade Commission and file a complaint with their office, and contact our office, the Consumer Protection Division, and file a complaint with us If the scam involved the internet or email, the FBI is where you want to contact, and they actually have a website, ic3.gov, where you can file a complaint online. And lastly, if the scam involve the mail system, the US Postal Service inspector, you can also file a complaint there as well. So the last slide is how to reach our office. Again, these are contact numbers for our consumer hotline, for our health hotline, and our identity theft our identity theft unit as well. So I will stop there.
Thank you, Janine. Please let's welcome our last speaker for the day, Mary Joy Rogers from the Maryland Insurance Administration.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I am Mary Jo Rogers. I am with the Maryland Insurance Administration, and I work in the Consumer Education and Advocacy Unit. Next slide. The Maryland Insurance Administration is the state agency that regulates insurance in Maryland. We license insurers as well as insurance producers, that's agents and brokers. We examine business practices of licensees to ensure compliance. We monitor solvency of insurers to make sure insurance companies are financially stable. We review and approve insurance policy forms. We review insurance rates to ensure rates are not inadequate, excessive, or unfairly discriminatory. And we investigate consumer and provider complaints and allegations of fraud. Next slide. What is insurance fraud? Insurance fraud is when an insurance producer, agent, adjuster, or or a consumer commits a deliberate deception for financial gain. Insurance fraud is one of the most costly crimes in our country, costing about $40 billion per year nationally. According to the Coalition on Insurance Fraud, it is estimated that each household pays approximately $1,000 extra in insurance premiums each year to offset the cost of insurance fraud. Committing insurance fraud can result in civil or criminal prosecution, jail time, penalties as high as $10,000, or both jail time and penalties. Next slide. Insurance fraud takes many forms: completing a false document, making a false statement, if an insurance producer pockets a premium or sells unauthorized insurance, exaggerating a claim, billing an insurer for services that were not provided, and making a fraudulent claim. The Maryland Insurance Administration takes insurance fraud seriously, and we investigate all referrals of insurance fraud. Next slide. Insurance fraud can be divided into two major categories: fraud by an insurance entity and fraud against an insurance entity. Next slide. Producer or agent enforcement is a part of the Insurance Fraud and Producer Enforcement Division, which investigates claims against people who are licensed by the MIA to work in the business of insurance, and conducts background investigations of individuals who are applying for the license. The MIA can take action against a licensee if the person violated the Maryland Insurance Article. Licenses issued by the Maryland Insurance Administration, MIA, include producers, those are agents and agencies, public adjusters, insurance advisors, title insurance, third-party administrators, and bail bondsmen. Next slide. Examples of investigations in the producer or agent enforcement unit would be into not submitting premium to an insurer, failing to give money owed to an insured, selling unsuitable or unapproved products, providing false information on an insurance application, using contracts that do not comply with Maryland law, licensed applicants who have been previously revoked, review of misrepresentations in license applications. Next slide. Fraud by an insurance entity, that would be fraud by an insurance agent, insurance company employee, or someone posing as an authorized representative of an insurance company. Would include fake and false documents, false statements, pocketing premiums, or again, selling unauthorized insurance. Next slide. Premium diversion. And that's simply the embezzlement of insurance premiums. Someone goes to their insurance agent to make a payment on their insurance bill, and the agent pockets that money instead of forwarding it on to the insurance company. Churning, which is the illegal practice of unnecessarily replacing existing life insurance for the purpose of earning commissions. When an agent or a producer would encourage you to cancel an existing policy in order to purchase a new policy to replace that when it is not necessary. Next slide. Fraud against an insurance entity. And this is what most people think of when they talk about insurance fraud. And this would be fraud committed by individuals, policyholders, medical providers, or other service providers against an insurance company to receive money by filing a false claim or inflating a legitimate one. This includes arson for profit, disaster fraud, creating a fraudulent claim, exaggerating claims, overstating the amounts of a loss, medical fraud, such as medical bills. People go in for medical treatment, but they actually don't receive any treatment, but frequent bills are sent to the insurance company stating the person is receiving treatment. False health claims. Next slide. Now, auto insurance, some of the common staged accident schemes involve, first one is called drive down. An example of drive down would be you are waiting to make a left turn and someone stops and waves you across. And as you start to make that left turn, they then accelerate, hit you, and claim that you took away their right of way and that they did not wave you on. Another common staged accident is hit and runs. Both vehicles are actually involved. They will hit a car, oftentimes a parked car. Then the car that's causing the accident leaves the scene. People jump in, claim they were struck and that the vehicle fled the scene. Sideswipe accidents. And another common is what's called swoop and squat. In that instance, the victim is there's someone that will get in front of them, someone behind them. They get in between, they will slam on their brakes, and the innocent person in the back will then rear end them, push them into the vehicle in front, and those two vehicles are in cahoots and both file claims and they claim their injuries when they've in fact, the middle vehicle actually caused the accident. So that's an example of swoop and squat. Seniors are particularly vulnerable to this type of fraud. Again, someone cuts them off and slams on the brakes, not allowing the person in the back time to properly stop. They get pushed into the front, and now the person is being blamed for two vehicles of damage and cars filled with 2 passengers and drivers that all claim injuries. Next slide. Auto insurance fraud, continuing, would be staged accidents with fake injuries. Oftentimes, one of the cars doesn't even have any persons in it at the time of the collision. Jump-in passengers, sometimes these are legitimate accidents, and people will come, the person driving may call some friends on their phone, they come and jump in and claim they were in the car when they really weren't when the accident occurred. Exaggerated injury claims, might be a minor fender bender or parking lot type of accident, and people claim serious injuries, vehicle damage enhanced after an accident. There's, again, that minor accident, and before the insurance company can come out and look at the vehicles, they've increased or added the damage, either kicking, hitting it with an object, running it into a pole. They increase the damage, so they oftentimes they can increase the claim for injuries. Another type of auto insurance fraud is when someone applies for insurance and they don't give their true address. For instance, somebody lives in Baltimore City, and because there's no off-street parking, traffic and congestion, the risk of having a claim or an accident is higher, so premiums are higher. So someone who lives in Baltimore City maybe has a relative that lives out, say, Harford County, Carroll County, somewhere where there is a lower premium, and they use someone else's address to obtain insurance. That's a type of insurance fraud. Falsifying claims that occurred before the policy period began. We see this where somebody maybe inadvertently failed to pay their insurance premiums, policy lapsed, they get into an accident, they then contact the insurance company, make a payment, and then claim, wait a day or two, and then claim that the accident happened after they made the policy payment, or even initiated a new policy when actually the claim occurred before there was any insurance on the car. False report of hit while parked. Sometimes people will strike an object, maybe back up into a pole, sideswipe a wall, and then go home, and instead of filing a claim admitting that they were driving and caused the accident, they will claim that the car was parked and hit, and the person that hit the car fled the scene. That again is insurance fraud. Next slide. Types of homeowner insurance fraud include false reports of theft for items stolen in the home or auto, exaggerated claims. Perhaps they did have a legitimate homeowner's claim, but they claim loss of items or damages that either items that were damaged or stolen or damaged in the loss that never really existed, or they're claiming damages that weren't a result of that loss, that it happened before that loss occurred, but trying to get coverage for additional damages. As working with a contractor to inflate estimates for repairs so that amount would cover the homeowner's deductible so they don't have to come out of pocket for the repairs. Another example is concealing a residence, that claiming that they reside in that home when it's actually a rental property. There's a higher risk of loss in a rental property. It's not being occupied by the homeowner, and so it costs a little bit more. So to reduce premiums, the owner of that property claims it to be their residence when in fact it is not. That again is a type of insurance fraud. Next slide. As we heard earlier, and again, we want to say most contractors are honest businesses, but you should be cautious anytime you need to hire a contractor, and you need to learn the warning signs of a swindle and how to protect yourself. Next slide. Again, as spoken about earlier, make sure they are properly licensed. Ask for a copy of their general liability insurance certificate. Now, that insurance policy doesn't cover the scope of their work, but if they come to your home and cause damage, cause you to be injured, they're working on something in your home and accidentally set your home on fire, they are carrying ladders and knock out your bay window, that's what that insurance will cover. If they cause damage or injuries outside of their scope of work, that's what the liability insurance certificate will protect you. Make sure that they have workers' compensation, ask for that certificate as well. So if one of their workers get injured and they don't come after you to cover them for their injuries, get a signed contract before any work begins. Do not pay in full before the work begins. If you have an insurance claim and the insurance policy will pay you substantially all of the cost of the repair, do not sign that check over to the contractor before the work begins. Again, deposit the check and you issue payment to the contractor for 1/3 upfront or less if you can negotiate. Never pay in cash. Next slide. Seniors are often the targets of insurance fraud, particularly in regards to life and health insurance. Be wary of unsolicited sales calls or telephone callers. They've often obtained your information through a mailing list. Do not allow high pressure tactics to influence your decisions. These tactics often include last chance deals, limited offers, and again, they're attempting to pressure you into signing forms without reviewing them. If you are on Medicare and someone comes to your home unsolicited to sell you a Medicare supplemental policy or what's known as a Medicare Advantage plan, understand that is illegal. If they come to your home unsolicited to sell you additional Medicare products, that is illegal. It's against the law. And please report that to us promptly. Next slide. Be wary of salespersons or telephone callers who urge you to cash in existing annuities or life insurance policies in order to buy a new policy or a new investment. Generally, annuities and life insurance are worth more the longer you keep them. Changing to a new annuity or policy may cause you to lose money over the first 3 to 5 years. You also may be charged a penalty if you withdraw money from your annuity early. Discuss the tax consequences of early withdrawal with your tax advisor before you agree to cashing in any of these or rolling them over into new annuities or life insurance policies. If someone claims to be from Medicare, Social Security, or another government agency. An insurance producer or broker who claims to be associated with the government is breaking the law. They want to sell you package policies that include several different benefits, some of which duplicate a policy you already have or include coverage you do not need. Be sure to check into these before you agree to purchase or make changes. Next slide. You are encouraged to report insurance fraud activities to the Maryland Insurance Administration's Insurance Fraud Division. You do not need to give your information. Simply call us at 1-800-846-4069, or you may email fraud referrals by sending the completed forms to fraud_referrals.mia@maryland.gov. Next slide. Reporting elder abuse. Each one of us has a responsibility to keep older adults safe from harm. Next slide. What to do if you suspect financial exploitation. First question to ask, does the potential victim have the capacity to provide for his or her daily needs? If you believe a crime is in progress or about to be consummated, that is, a senior is about to hand over a large sum of money to a scammer, call 911 immediately. If you are a mandatory reporter, you must report suspected cases of fraud or financial exploitation of a senior. You can call the local Protective Services APS office. There is a local APS office in each county's Department of Social Services, as well as Baltimore City. You may find a list of offices at Department of Human Services at .maryland.gov/local-offices. Alternatively, you can call the statewide number to report at 1-800-332-6347. APS will send out an investigator. If you are not sure, you may call APS anyway. APS will make the determination if your call is made in good faith. There is no downside to calling APS. Please use the links below to help you and the victim determine where the exploitation should be reported. Next slide. Here are some, now again, this presentation and the slides will be available on our website in a few days. But here are some additional resources that can assist you or seniors if you believe insurance fraud or other types of fraud or scams are being perpetrated. Next slide. If you are a mandatory reporter, that is, if you are a healthcare professional, social worker, police officer, or an employee of a healthcare facility or financial institution, you are a mandatory reporter of suspected exploitation of elders or vulnerable adults. Report in accordance with your professional obligations. And if you are unsure to whom you must report suspected exploitation, please speak with your supervisor. Next slide. How can you protect yourself? Talk to someone you trust if you are confused or uncomfortable about a financial decision. Do not answer calls from unknown numbers. Do not open email, text messages, and links from unknown senders. Remember that scammers often make threats and false promises. And beware of anyone asking you to pay bills or debts through gift cards or money transfers. Next slide. Don't take surveys or play games online that ask for personal information. We often see on different social media resources, and they'll play games. Tell us your horoscope and we'll tell you what's your favorite flavor of ice cream. Let us know what the first vehicle you owned, and we'll give you the initials of your forever love. These games are collecting personal information. So think about maybe your bank accounts or your medical information, you have security questions. And those questions are things such as, in what city were you born? What was the make of your first vehicle? Those games are ways to trick you into revealing that information so that the scammer will have answers to those security questions. So please be cautious when playing those games or taking those surveys. Reconcile your insurance, medical, and bank statements to check for fraudulent activities. Review your explanation of benefits that you receive from Medicare and your other health insurance providers to make sure that it's correct. Check your bank statements frequently and contact your bank if you see any charges or debits that you did not authorize or look suspicious. Again, beware of individuals offering free products or services in exchange for your personal identifying information, such as social security numbers, your Medicare number, your health insurance policy number. Next slide. For additional information, please feel free to contact us, the Maryland Insurance Administration, 1-800-492-6116 or 410-468-2000. And visit our website for additional information at www.insurance.maryland.gov. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. And thank you so much to all the speakers. This will begin our Q&A portion of the event today. I will start with the questions that have already been submitted in the chat, and please continue to ask questions throughout the Q&A in the chat. So far, I only see one question in the chat, and that is, could we get any or all of the slides? Yes, the recording for the event today and all the slides will be available on the Maryland Insurance Administration website by early next week. And our website again is www.insurance.maryland.gov. Or you can also email me directly. I will go ahead and add my email address in the chat if you would like to receive the slides within this week. Okay, there is another question. I had a question about elder abuse in nursing homes. Who do I contact? I don't know if any of the speakers have an answer for this question.
Actually, I do. This is Janine from the Maryland Attorney General's office. That individual should contact the long-term care ombudsman for the county, or if it's Baltimore City, they actually can look into issues for nursing home residents. In cases of abuse, they can also look into those issues as well. So, and you can find that contact information through the Office of Aging, or the Department of Aging, I should say, for the Maryland Department of Aging. They have that list of long-term care ombudsmen.
Thank you, Janine. And I see that there's another question in the chat. I have a resident who received too many depends and she has called them to inform them, but she still gets them. What can she do? If any.
This is Rebecca. I can respond. That was the first thing, was the right thing to do, was to contact the vendor. If they're continuing to send her too many vendors, she can report it to CMS that they're continue to send her, even though she's reported that she doesn't need that many. She can contact the local ship, and that's on the slides, the local ships in her office, in her county, excuse me.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay, I do not see any other questions. This is your opportunity to ask questions. Please go ahead and continue to add them in the chat. I'll give everybody a couple more minutes. And if any of the speakers have any announcements to make, please feel free to do so now.
This is Janine. I do want to point out in the Consumer Protection Division, we have a senior asset attorney who can assist in recovering assets that may have been lost due to financial exploitation for seniors who are age 68 and older. He has the ability to do an investigation. He can actually pursue civil court, remedies in civil court, I should say. So that is another resource in the Attorney General's office. And he has the ability to take action even if there were not criminal charges filed. And because in many of these cases, there may not be criminal charges filed.
Thank you, Janine.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I do not see any other questions in the chat, so we will go ahead and wrap this up. So I want to say thank you to the presenters and the attendees today. Everyone has a right to safety and justice, and working together, we can help prevent elder abuse and make sure we all have the chance to thrive as we age. Thank you from all of us at the Maryland Insurance Administration, and I hope you can join us for informative events in the future. Thank you.